Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Show here, and now, before we begin, let me give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of events have happened. We had Deku. Now, Deku, he has been a little bit busy. He talked to Dr. Cleft, debriefed him on what was currently happening and why him and his team did not engage the anomalies they encountered and have been searching for the last 3 months. Now, Deku explained himself. They're on to something big, and with the fact that a prior anomaly he has had a connection with, Sammy, he encountered her with another anomaly and then encountered her again at the apartment. This does mean quite a bit. Deku has seen her around, but now that they've found this version of her, they know that there's two running around. Something bigger is happening, and Izuku, he is acting on what his mind is telling him. The Foundation, they have been able to put a certain amount of trust into Izuku's instincts. They've kept him alive, and they have brought the Foundation back from a dead reality once. Deku might be a risk to them, but if he isn't a damn good risk, then they don't know what is. He can throw himself at a threat endlessly until he overcomes it. That's not something the Foundation have the bodies for. Right now, he is acting in their stead. They are giving him certain permissions, and he is using them very well. In fact, he doesn't have a lot of wants, and this so far is in good standing with the Foundation. They get him what he does want, and in return, they have a loyal agent. Now, Deku, he went out for coffee, and him and Sammy, they had a bit of a chat. They had brunch, they talked about a few things, including his allies, and even about what he does know. She knows he's with the Foundation, and he knows she knows. But along with that, Deku learned Inko Midoriya, the Prometheus Lab scientist, she was missing from Prometheus Labs. Sammy was her personal assistant who scoured the projects around the world. And with the fact that she can't look into Deku's head, it does give her quite the interesting perspective when she does look at him. So yeah, that is where she was at. Nizuku, he was still quite intrigued by some of the things Sammy was saying. If she can help him find Inko Midoriya, that could help answer a lot of his questions. Though, when we were right back at the apartment, he did talk to Rose about his date, quote unquote, with Sammy, and she was quite surprised hearing a bit more about this. Now then, it has been about 2 weeks, and Deku and his group, they have continued to talk with Sammy's group and her friends. They've hung out a few times, and the Foundation, they have been made aware of this. They're supposed to be leaving town in October, though now that it's a bit more towards the end of the month, they don't know when this will occur. If they can get it documented as to how they're doing this, it could mean a lot. And there is currently tonight, where Deku, he does somewhat sit there in the passenger seat of a car as Zenith does start to talk about a few things. Her, right now, putting the car in a park and turning to Rose, telling her about how all this might be going down. They're meeting up with their friends, quote unquote, here. Alex is going to be listening in thanks to Izuku's telepathy. And he is ready to get this all documented. Right. Yeah, I'm with the equipment. I have Izuku's location and Rose's. Zenith, your bracelet? I got it. Though, the reality bender. We can trust her? We can. I've met with the O5 Council. they've got worries. Deku going to bring his hand up and pull something from his jacket. As it does, look like some large metal bracelet that would more accurately be described as a collar. And they just don't stare at that. The strange black material and the large block that does fit on one side. Deku going to somewhat bring his hands up and go to pull it apart. As he does talk about it, that this thing here they gave him. They said if he could, to put it around her neck and see if it works. What is that? Something new. They think that if we can start using these things, we can take out reality benders, neutralize them. Does it look, does it work like what I think it does? If you think it's a reality anchor, then you're not far off. It's something better. I don't know how they made it, but from what I can tell, I can feel an anomaly present here. You can feel one? Hmm? Yeah. You get a sense for them. You kind of know how to pick one out. I don't know what to say about this little gadget, but I know it's not made normally. This material, it just feels different. Her bring her hand up, and Deku does a turn, telling her not to touch. And she doesn't flinch, the seriousness in Deku's tone alarming her. As is to talk about it. He's the only one authorized to touch this thing currently at the moment. They don't know what it might do to normal humans at the moment. Right. Um, but we should probably head inside, right? Deku nodding, getting out of the car as usual walk into a very fancy hotel. Him walking over as someone does a turn, trying to stop Izuku, who does it to bring his hand up. Him going to hold up a card as they do stare at that. It showing that they do have the right to be here. As Deku does a turn, stepping into the elevator as the two go to follow him. Them heading up into the floors that do go to contain their friends. Now, there is somewhere near the top floor. The elevator does go to open. They do a turn and walk down a hallway before knocking on a door. Deku going to bring up the card and go to tap it on the door before he does push it open. And they just step inside. Right now the three find themselves in a very fancy room. And Sammy does get a turn, standing up and walking over. As right now the four, they do all somewhat sit there. Her expressing to them about how they're here. And he doesn't look around. The night sky is gone. It's the middle of day out where they are. And Izuku, he does get to talk about it. So what's happening here? Zenith and Rose start staring out at the bright sun outside. Them walking over as Rose does make a comment, and Zenith is not too far behind. And Alex, he is a little concerned about what just happened, since their tracking devices said that they were right over there. But now he's getting a ping from overseas. And this, he does try to turn, reaching out towards Deku as Deku, he does a turn and think, telling Alex not to worry, since he does know how his mind feels. You sure? I mean, you're across the planet. Alright, I'll contact operations, see what I can do there, but don't worry. Don't worry what? We'll be fine. Just keep monitoring us, and if you do need to, tap. You understand? Right, but Seriously, I think a phone call might be more accurate. I have your number and I have Zenus. Alright? I'll try that. I'll try to be discreet about it. Put me on speaker. I know what to do. Fine, Alex. Though, my way seems better. Trust me, it does. But this is still a little too weird for me. Him going to fall silent. And Deku, he does go to let out a sigh before someone is walking up, asking exactly if he's alright. I'm fine. Just a few things happening. Just a bunch of bullshit I'd rather not talk about. Is that right? Yeah, that's right, Danny. So, where are we? Don't worry, don't worry. Though, there's a pool outside. There's a table. Hell, got plenty of high-class alcohol, and hey, if you do want to change the venue, just ask our pal Sammy here. Danny, go into someone smile. As Johnny does a walk up talking about how, yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. She's good at a lot of things. Then again, they do need to head out shopping pretty damn soon. You're right about that. Amy, gonna bring up her hands. Right now, her going to throw her hands all the way up before extending them down at her elbows. Right now, her twisting her back as she does, gonna want to spin her top half completely in a 180. Her talking about it. Going to someone spin back as she's a pull her shirt up talking about how she's gonna get in the pool pretty damn soon. But right now, how about they start having a little bit of fun? Right. Her turning. Ask if any of them want something to drink. And Deku, he does somewhat walk over. Before he does turn to Tony, the large man who currently is not wearing a hoodie. And getting a better look at him, he's covered in some sort of large exoskeleton. The man turning to look at Deku, as Deku, he does do one thing. He does go to bring his hand up and grab at his shirt. Right now, him going to start taking off his leather jacket as he does bring his hands up and go to adapt. Right now, his body beginning to twist and change. And Tony doesn't stare on at Deku as his ears do grow the extra organs for sensory. His teeth to get sharper. His hair does begin to fade to green. And his skin does begin to look reptilian. And Deku's tail, it does kind of somewhat pop out. Currently, Deku going to stand there before he does turn his neck and twist. Right now, him going to talk about it. Right. Every now and again, it's nice to get back in the old skin. So yeah, he does definitely feel like he could take a drink. Before he's gonna walk past, bring his head up and telling Tony about how they should take a shot. And the man does somewhat stare at Deku, a bit more caught off guard by that. And there is where Danny does come walking over, talking about how, well, that was unexpected. So what's this? Oh, come on. It's not that hard. Take a guess. You're a reptile man. So you're a lizard man. That's real funny. Him going to bring up his hands, talking about how, with his sharpened fingers, that it's not that bad. So, they've got a few animal people here. Though, Amy, her gonna start roll her eyes. Before she does gonna slam down some glasses talking about it. She couldn't find the, plastic cups, so these'll work. Her going to begin pouring talking about it. So, they've got a few things to do. And right now, things are gonna get a lot more fun. And the party, it does get started. Everyone beginning to start slimming back some alcohol as they do start to party a little more. Loud music to start to blare, and some games do get played. And we do actually have some of the girls who do start to gather outside as they do talk about a few things. Sammy, she just won't stand out there overlooking the city. They're in another country. The place is beautiful and it's nice. Her turning back before Zenith does, so start talking about how she's a bit confused about the party. She was told just to come by. Then again, if she knew there was a pool, she would have brought her swimsuit. Amy talking about it. Currently, her going to throw her hands up and express. They could just share. You know, she's got some clothes back over in one of the rooms. Or her turning, asking Sammy if she can work a little bit of magic. And she's a turn before rolling her eyes and snapping her fingers. And everyone, they just don't stand there. Rose appearing in a red suit, as Zenith does get appear in a blue one. And she just don't talk about it. Spinning around. Well then, it does seem like everything's going to be quite good. Is that enough? Or does she want a drink too? I'm not going to say no. Fair enough. Her snapping her hands, or snapping her fingers, and they do also stand there with a drink. Her looking at hers, which is don't take a sip. Her coughing out and turning, spitting it out and telling Sammy about what the hell. You wanted a drink, so I mean it's strong. Seriously? Even the ice? Mm-hmm. You wanted a drink. Uh, you okay, Sammy? I'm fine. No, I do have a question. About? Well, Rose, you heard about me and Izuku and how we went to lunch the other week, right? Ooh, this sounds interesting. Izuku told me about it. Really now? So, was that before or after I stuffed my tongue down his throat? You're lying. Are you sure? I mean, Sammy doesn't tend to lie. Eh, as far as you know, Amy, I've got some secrets of my own. Though, Izuku is fascinating, I will say that. We were somewhere in Italy. Quite nice place. I even thought about taking him somewhere more romantic. I have no reason to be jealous. Ooh, it seems like Rose has you beat, Sammy. I don't doubt that. Though, it's because of her culture. Where she's from. I wouldn't say it's exactly odd for it. Really. Tread carefully, Sammy. Now I'm poking the bear. Currently, Xena is talking about it. Bring her hand up. Okay. Maybe she shouldn't try saying something about that. She's diving into family stuff. And that's off limits. And Amy does get to talk about it. Bring up her hand. Well then, how about they just hop in the pool and chat? Hell, she's willing to drop the entire damn subject. Then again, it does have her curious about what she's talking about. And Rose does talk about it. She can explain it to them if, and only if, they allow her to. Sammy can do whatever she wants, though she'd like to keep her own personal stuff out of the conversation. Is that allowed? It is. Though, well, we'll handle that in a minute. Currently, this being where Johnny does a step out. Him bringing one of his hands up and talking about it. About how they've got to come see this. This is going to be good. And everyone, they do just don't turn. Before Johnny does, gonna bring his hand up and wave them over as they go inside. Johnny quickly moving over as the bandages that do gonna manifest from his skin do to jump out. Them carry him quickly back over to the table. He has to bring his hand up, his bandages wrapping around Deku and Tony's hands, as the two do currently sit there ready to arm wrestle. And there is where Danny does talk about it. He's just saying, he wants to know who's stronger now. Seriously, Tony? Come on. I'm gonna break your arm. Try it. Come on. I'm ready. Are you? Or are you just gonna be a chump about it? You know, I was gonna be nice about this, but maybe I don't have to be. Ooh, do you hear that, Tony? He thinks you're a chump. This sounds like a bad idea. So let me bring her hand up. As she does this on flip her wrist, talking about how it's a pretty bad one. Though she does want to see how this does play out. And Amy does get someone bring her hand up, wrapping one around Rose and wrapping one around Sammy, trying to somewhat whisper about who she thinks is gonna win. And Deku, he does not sit there. Right now his hand ready. As their ears are Johnny does to unwrap his bandages and he does it a pull back, expressing go. And the two, they do immediately try to use force. Them trying to force the other one to smash into the table. And Deku, he does sit there. Right now him turning his arm as he does have the advantage. And Tony, he does gotta bring his hand up and smash his claws onto the edge of the table. Him trying to put more force as his fingers do start to dig into the wood. And Sammy does bring her hands up, making it just a little bit stronger again. As Deku, he does stand there and he does quickly start turning his arm more and more, asking Tony exactly how he feels about that. Come on, he's still hardly trying. Seriously. Come on. Let me know when you start trying. Tony giving him somewhat of a smile, the appendages on his face somewhat moving as he does start to turn Deku's arm, and Deku, he does still somewhat feel a little bit of clicking in his shoulder. It beginning to start moving back as Deku does stare down. He does look back up. Before he does gonna press a bit more and a bit more. Deku making things more even as the two do sit there for a minute locked. Deku staring at Tony as he does gonna bring his own hand down onto the table, his clawed hand digging into the wood. And he does gonna stare at him as the table does gonna start cracking. The two deadlocked as Sammy does step forwards. And Danny, he is shouting at Tony to kick his ass and to not let him win. Before he does go to someone start holding his breath in Deku, he does have someone stand there a little bit more proud. And the two, they just stand there before the table just to crack more. Her talking about it. Alright then, this is going to be one last time. Though it isn't going to last very long. Her going to wave her hand and talk about it. Now, if the boys are done playing, how about they get serious? And the two, they do something to turn to her, before looking back at each other, and Danny does a little bit of a whistle, talking about how if they were taking it easy, then that does sound a lot like fighting words. And Deku, he does get a feel Tony immediately jerk his arm towards the right. Deku pushing back immediately as Danny, he does go to watch Deku slam his head into the table and it does start breaking. Currently, him falling to the ground as his assault roll for a minute. Him smashing the walls, Deku does go to throw his hand up. And everyone, they just don't start cheering. Before there is where Tony has to jump up and bring his hand up to his other hand, somewhat muttering a stream of curses that would make a sailor proud. And Sammy does it to fix everything. Before she should talk about it. Well then. Now, if they're done, then there's a lot going on. There's a pool outside if they all do want to have a bit of a chat. So, what are they going to do? Deku turning and talking about how they can definitely go outside. Though, ooh, this bottle looks good. Him bringing his hand up. Them watching as a large bottle go flying towards Deku's hand and he's going to catch it. Him holding it up, talking about how if they're going to be partying, they're going to do it right. Deku unscrewing the top and bringing it up to his lips. Before he has a swirl around, and they do get to watch it go to drain down Deku's gullet. And everyone, they just stare on. Tony going to turn and stare at Johnny horrified. And Johnny does a step forwards, bringing his hands up, chanting for Deku to start chugging and chugging. And right now, they will watch it drain down. Till Deku does his own pull back and go to someone shake his head, before bringing his hand up and going to sit it on the table, talking about that. Well then, how about they get it done? Every one of those bottles needs to be empty by tonight. That's what he'd at least say. Are they all in agreement? Everyone beginning to somewhat cheer, and Sammy does get a smile, since this is a party. Now, they do head outside and enjoy the pool. Swimming, talking, and music playing. There is even where a game does get started. Sammy making some floaties, and they do to someone play beer pong on a floating raft. It flying through the air as Deku does a land a shot. And there is where Amy is going to accuse Deku of using his telekinesis. That or Sammy is cheating. And Deku's going to turn to Sammy, who currently does somewhat float in the water as she's to look back at him. And the two do a look back at their team, well, their opponents, as the enemy team, they do go to stare at them. And Deku does talk about it. They really couldn't cheat if they wanted to. Besides, where's the fun in that? Sammy just picked the right side. Seriously? I mean, hey, what can I say? Besides, I'm playing fair. You just suck. Her somewhat gritting her teeth, throwing her hands out as she does go to throw the ball in the air. I'm going to throw her leg back. It spinning around and going to smack the ball up higher. Her looking up as the ball, it does going to fly at Deku and bounce off of his head. It going to fly back down as it is a smash off one of the cups. It flying up into the air as it is a move back towards her. And she does going to watch as Tony does going to bring up his large hand. Him going to throw his hand up as Deku does try to reach out and grab the ball. Her annoyed and watching as Tony does grab the ball and tell her to try and throw properly. And she does this give a bit of a drunken grin towards him. As there actually is Danny, who does this sit there rolling a bottle in his hands and talking with Zenith about a few things. Now, after a few hours of this, there is where they do arrive back, and we do actually have later. Deku, he does get to wake up to his phone buzzing. Him going to bring it up and ask a bit groggily. Hello? Who is it? Is that you? You finally awake? Who is this? Ah. Jesus, Izuku. You'd think that you'd be awake by now. At least used to this. Come on. What would I do, Izuku? Hmm? I don't know your voice. Have we met before? Cleft? No, jackass. We were gonna have a movie night when you get back. Come on, the classics. Even some of the newer stuff that isn't bad, but still it looks kind of shitty. Right? There you go. How you been doing, kid? Um, the goose one's sitting up, looking around and find that he's in a room. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Sorry. Just, mouth is dry. Is it now? That kinda does suck. Yeah. Oh, what's up? What's up? Well, we outsourced a few things and now we had to stop. Your location's back in Texas. Though why were you somewhere in Europe? A reality bender. That's what happened. She took us somewhere fancy and nice and we all had a bit of a party. We all? Izuku, you're partying with an MTF? Not exactly, no, but definitely partying with a few people who are just like me. Nice. Listen, I'm calling in as not only a checkup, but because you haven't been answering your phone. Any particular reason why that is? I just woke up. Right. Okay then. So how is everything going? Deku's sitting up. And right as I see a hand laying over his chest, he has to bring his hand up. Before he does, because I want to roll it off of him, talking about it. Everything's fine. The anomaly in question he's talked to already. And, well, she does know him, and he does know her. The two do have a sort of bit of trust. You haven't neutralized the reality bender? No, I haven't. Sammy's cool. She's fine. I'm not going to use the collar on her. Izuku, you were instructed to use it if things got out of hand. Listen, have things gotten out of hand? Deku turning to his right. Enrose does lay there, currently sleeping. Before he does turn to his left. And Sammy does lay there, currently going to somewhat snore. As Deku, he does turn looking over to see his jacket sitting on a chair. And the collar, he knows it is inside. If he wanted to, he could snap it on her neck right now and she wouldn't be the wiser. Everything's fine. Listen, Dr. Bright. We just had a bit of a party. After some drinks, we just hung out. Then, a few things happened. Oh? Do I hear a humble brag coming on, Izuku? Did things go well? Dr. Bright, you know what they say. Oh? Sounds like we've got something to celebrate. Maybe two things. Really? Izuku. Seriously though? Is everything alright? I've heard about, the news. It's fine, Dr. Bright. I don't know how much she wants me to tell you or even say on the matter, so I'm not going to. Though, I can definitely say that it was a fun night. Right. Sammy going to someone start stirring. Her going to someone sit up as her t-shirt, it does go to someone move. Her asking him exactly if he's talking to a Foundation agent. Hmm? Oh, Dr. Bright. Who? Her bring her hand up. On the phone, there's a fly into her hand as she does this one bring it up. So he's the legendary Dr. Bright. Who is this? Sammy. I was Miss Incomodoria's, Dr. Midoriya's assistant. Hang on. You okay? Hmm? Yeah, just curing my hangover. Listen, I understand that you and Izuku have history. I'm not going to pretend to understand a lot of it, but he says you're a good guy. I'll trust you when I do say this. If I wanted to be a problem, I would be. I'm willing to help out a little bit, but there's a lot more things going on than I think you realize. If you think you know what's going on, you don't. How? Right now, my power is being limited by something. Limited? What do you mean? I don't know what the jailers call it, but there's something else here. I'm getting a feel for it. Apparently, it gave Izuku a birthday present a while back. Did it? You've. Has he mentioned before about meeting another anomaly on the mountain? Or about some strange person with numbers on the back of her neck? Like Miranda. 003. Yeah, just like her. I believe that what he means is that he met a version of me. And I don't know what that version is. So for right now, while I am being a little limited, I'd like to have a bit of a longer leash. At least not have somebody tug on it. Not saying that I'm not. Well, I'm sure you can make an assumption. I can respect it. Dr. Bright leaning back in his chair, talking about it. Well then, if they are laying some cards out on the table then, no. One thing. If she thinks that she can mess with Izuku and get away with it, he does know her face. He does know, I'll stop you right there. I don't plan to mess with him. At least not in that sort of way. Her turning to him, expressing with a bit of a smile about how he has caught her interest. Though unfortunately today is moving day, so they are going to be a little bit busy. Kay thinks bye. Her hanging up and handing the phone back over to Zuko. Someone jumping up and talking about how she does have to make breakfast, for she has to teleport away. And Izuku, he does just won't stare at that, before climbing out of bed himself and going to start stretching, bringing his hands up as he does gonna grab a shirt. And the night before, it is a little hazy. He did drink quite a lot, so the party was quite successful. He went to bed late, and he was escorted by two beautiful ladies. So who is he to judge? To say anything? It's a cozy bed. Quite a nice place. Rose should be up in some time. She did have fun. That was nice. I'm turning back and trying to think about what he should do. Before he does it, I'll walk back over and just not bend down, making sure that she is fine. And Deku, he does get a response from her whenever she does, goes somewhat roll over and bring her hands out, not finding him before she just don't start stirring. And there is a little bit of time later where Sammy does just want to sit there. Her right now with an apron on and the smell of food completely surrounding the air. Everyone sitting down at the table and talking about it. About how this does look like quite a spread. Yep, got a few things. Got some smoked ham over there, chocolate chip pancakes, blueberry, strawberry, you name it. There's waffles, bacon, turkey bacon, a bunch of stuff. Her gonna bring her hands up, and everyone does to watch as oranges do to manifest into the air. Before they do immediately begin to liquefy and turn into juice. A pitcher being formed out of the peels that did get ripped off the oranges. It going to turn to glass before it is going to get filled up with the liquid. and she's an express. Currently, it laying under the table about how well that does work. Nice one. Gotta say, Sammy, this does look pretty good. Thanks, Danny. So, you done being a bit of a dick? Oh, come on. You're friends with me for a reason. Though, how'd your night go last night? How do you think it went? Her gonna bring up a coffee before sipping it and telling him things are fine. Oh, I'm gonna turn, looking at Deku before he does go to express. So, does everything match? And currently he does go to feel something smack him in the face. For he's a turn, and Johnny does a turn looking at his extended arm. The bandage flying back down and into his skin. Before he's a turn looking at Sammy. Talking about it. Not cool. Nothing happened last night. I was interested. And, well, I don't think she bothers sharing too much. Much? Damn. So, what about you, Izuku? Hmm? Oh, it was a pretty good night. Nice warm bed, some beautiful girls. Can't complain. Currently, I'm going to turn. As they do, go to see Tony walk downstairs as Amy isn't too far behind. And the Razor Rose does come walking down. Her somewhat stretching as Deku, he does bring his hand up. Him whistling as she has come down in some PJs. Her talking about it. Going to sit down as Zenith does a turn. Seeing Rose sit on Deku's lap, as she's a turn grabbing some bread with some butter on it. Expressing, bringing it up to her mouth about exactly how fun last night was. It was a pretty good party. Though, now we gotta leave. You know when it arrives? We've got time, we've got time. Besides, I worked so hard on the meal. I wouldn't say that. I'd say you put in minimal effort, but points for creativity. Him turning. As right now, when I try and grab a piece of ham, it does go to get pegged up by his fork. Him going to bring it onto his plate before he's to cut into it, bringing it to his mouth and biting into it. Before just someone starts squirming, he does a turn, spitting it to the ground and turning back to her. And she does this, give him a bit of a grin. Him looking down at his plate and seeing that the ham, it has returned to normal. Bring his fork down as it does a move on his plate, squirming out of the way as it moves to the left. Him trying to grab it again as it moves to the right. And he does a stare up at her and talk about it. Fine, fine. He's sorry. Is that what she wants to hear? It does work. Sam. What, Tony? Give him a bit of a break. You had fun last night. Hell, I'd say you had a lot more than that. Jealous, my friend? Not jealous. Worried. Don't know this guy too well. Still think he's fishy. I get it. I appreciate the concern, tone, but I'm a big girl, so I don't need it. And Zenith does this not clear her throat. Talking about it. So, they're gonna be heading out of town? Bringing up some orange juice, taking a sip and expressing. Her trying to think through her hangover. Bring her fork up and seeing two pills that do somewhat sit there next to her fork. Her a little confused where Sammy does talk about it. They'll cure it the old-fashioned way. She's not used to reality benders, right? No, I'm not. If you want to wipe away my hangover, I won't say no. Though, thanks for these anyway. Her downing them and taking another sip of her drink. And this does elicit a smile from Sammy, talking about it. Well then, she thinks that that's everything seared up and done. So, now how about they go ahead and go? And here I was just working through the waffles. Right. Fine. Um, if we can hurry, I'll have to make a shortcut. Are you sure that's safe? It's fine, Amy. Foundation will pick it up, but we'll be at the place before then. Fair, fair. Though I am gonna need to do a little bit more things. Them eating breakfast, Ashes does won't explain, and everyone, they do have to mentally prepare themselves for what's to come. Currently, the food being eaten through as she's gonna bring her hands up, snapping her fingers as everyone, they just don't stand in an alleyway. Zenith looking around for bring her hands up and find that she's in the clothes she was in the night before. Though when she goes to bring her hand down, she does go to find that they're clean. And everyone, they are looking around a bit confused. Her turning around with a bit of a spin, talking about it, throwing her hands behind her back. Well then, they all comfortable? Good. Well, they're here. This is the place. And Deku does its own turn, seeing a door on the wall as Danny does get a step forwards, talking about how they're gonna love this. Zenith is still quite alarmed by everything going on. She is trying her best to maintain her composure. Though the rapid shift, her mind is still trying to process. And that Deku does a turn, saying something in her head, snapping her out of it as she does someone jump back to the real world. And Danny, he does get a walk over. Sammy joining him as the door is pulled open, and it does have a light shining from it, expressing about where they're going to be going. And people do start to walk through. Johnny stepping in as so does Amy. Tony walking through and telling them all about how it's about to get a little bit more crazy. And Sammy does it a walk in. Deku joining them as they all do a step through the door and he does it a close. And the Foundation, they were watching everything. They watched as that tracking device they do have on their anomalies, it jumped from Austin, Texas to somewhere in Europe. And then it jumped right back to one location. Then it jumped somewhere else in Austin. And then all of a sudden it just vanished. The systems had an error and it popped up in multiple locations. But then it didn't. It flagged and had to stop. They just shut something down. It didn't register properly. There was something going on with that. Those devices are either malfunctioning or their equipment is working perfectly fine. And right now that is the biggest issue the Foundation are having. We do have on the other side of that door where everyone, they're looking around and they do stand in another city, another place. And Deku, he is staring at a lot of things. There's signs overhead that they're in a language he doesn't understand. There's people flying, there's sounds, noises. Deku turning. Before there is our bandage is that wrapped around his wrist, and he is pulled by Johnny. Him yelling about how they might not want to get separated here. Trust him. If they get separated, then it's going to be a pretty big problem. As Zenith does a turn, her immediately throwing her eyes down as a Bigfoot does to walk right past, and that it does kind of alarm her, forces her to turn back and watch the creature walk quickly. It's still turning to look around, a little confused. In this, she does have her eyes go wide at, since that was an SCP-1000. And Deku, he does a turn, seeing some people moving by as someone they do to walk past. A woman with spiral-like appendages and multiple eyes. An exoskeleton similar to Tony's. Her making her way quickly overhead as the appendages on her back do carry her high above the crowd. And she is yelling out something in a language they can't understand. In this, it does alarm Deku, turning and seeing weapons he is trying to understand. I mean, there's a guy selling swords over there. There's a guy selling some sort of goo-like material over there. There's stones over there that are also crystals. No, no, that looks like a spear, but if it was made from... You alright? Hmm? Yeah, yeah. Sorry, this place is odd. You might not want to look human here. What do you mean? Here humans are a bit more the minority. If they use magic, then yeah, they're seen a little bit more favorably. Though the normals, if you do want to call them that, the sheep, as many refer, they're a little, you know, valued here. What do you mean? Let's just say you might want to have her stick close. Johnny bring his hand up, offering it to Zenith, telling her about how she might want to stick close to them, you know, just in case. If someone does grab her and go, then they may not be able to find her again. What do you mean? Oh, why am I so valuable here? Trust me, you would rather not know. Depending on why you're grabbed, could be a number of reasons, too. Not all of them good. Hell, this is the place. Everywhere and nowhere. As far as I'm aware, things the Foundation hasn't even discovered are here. And they discovered a lot of shit, haven't they? I don't know. Right. Anyways, then begin to walk down the corridor, talking about how there's a tournament they've got to go to, and then they might go to an arena. If they're lucky enough, Tony, he'll want to fight some stuff. And that could be pretty damn cool. And Deku's ears do get a perk up at the mention of this. Him holding on to Rose's hand. As everyone, they are somewhat strapped together thanks to Johnny's wrappings. It locked onto one of their hands and onto their wrist. All of them going to somewhat be walked through the crowd of anomalies. The crowd of creatures they can see. And Deku does not watch as a ball of light as a flight rookie overhead. It in the shape of some moth-like creature. And he does have his eyes locked on it. And he does this one smile. Since this, it's a new anomaly. It's all new. This is somewhere the Foundation, they don't have access to. At least he doesn't think. He's heard of 3 Portlands, but the smell in the air, the atmosphere, this isn't 3 Portlands. This isn't where he was found. It's somewhere else. Now, the group, they will walk into the crowd, disappearing as the Foundation, they've lost sight of their anomalies. And with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.